Polyamory creates the perfect breeding ground for narcissism to thrive. Let's learn how to spot the narcissist by exploring how narcissistic behaviors can get disguised in open relationship dynamics. Make sure to watch until the end for the 4 most important things you can do to protect yourself if you think you might be in an open or poly relationship with a narcissist. I'm Iseman, a relationship coach on a mission to give you the tools and skills you need to build the relationships you want and deserve. This channel shares all the lessons that I've learned the hard way so you don't have to. Subscribe to get more sex, love, and modern relationship tips that you can start using today, no matter what relationship style you're in. Has polyamory just become a new way of cheating with permission? Is being consensually non-monogamous just a new way of saying you're dating casually? Does your poly partner's freedom feel more like a way to escape accountability? Or maybe you wonder if jealousy is being weaponized against you in your open relationship. We're going to explore a highly overused word: narcissism. It's often used improperly, especially within multi-partner dynamics, where it can hide like a wolf in sheep's clothing. This can look like a partner who demands constant praise for their alleged ethical polyamory practices while refusing to acknowledge any harm they may have caused. Narcissism is a personality trait or disorder that's characterized by self-centeredness, lack of empathy, and a need for control or admiration. It is more than selfishness, and according to the American Psychiatric Association's DSM-5, often involves exploitation in relationships, particularly in contexts where boundaries are fluid. Clinical narcissism, known as narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is not the same thing as just displaying narcissistic qualities or behaviors. This is in stark contrast with the core values of polyamory, which thrives on open communication, empathy, and mutual respect for everyone's autonomy. People who practice polyamory often have a higher level of the personality trait referred to by psychologist, author, and narcissism expert Dr. Ramani as openness. Open people, who are generally more flexible, curious, and agreeable, often become targets for narcissists because of their higher level of tolerance and drive for new experiences. A 2018 study by Ziegler-Hill on narcissism in romantic relationships showed that narcissists often manipulate relationship dynamics to maintain control and admiration, whereas polyamory and open relationship dynamics are about determining and communicating your boundaries to others. Narcissism thrives in making you feel like you're not enough, whereas polyamory is about adding to an already fulfilling dynamic. Not everyone is open to polyamory, and that's okay. A narcissist might shame you or say that you're not as evolved or spiritual as they are for not being open to polyamory. Where there is coercion or control, there cannot be consent. Consent is something freely given without influence and is a foundational quality of healthy polyamory and open relationship dynamics. Think of polyamory like a potluck dinner. You know I'm a foodie, so I gotta make a food metaphor. At a potluck, everyone brings their best dish to the table, but no one takes more than their share. A narcissist, however, might show up with an empty plate, take what they want, and leave others hungry. So how does narcissism sneak into a space that's supposed to be about love and freedom? Let's talk about how narcissism can get disguised within polyamory. With multi-partner relationships like polyamory being less socially acceptable, accurate information is less easily available to most people. And so, it's easier for narcissists to abuse poly language and frameworks to suit their needs, especially with people new to or inexperienced in open relationship dynamics. Narcissists use various forms of emotional manipulation to maintain dominance and control and center themselves in all of their relationships. Some of the most common ones are love bombing multiple partners. A 2020 paper in the Journal of Personality highlighted that narcissists often employ love bombing to quickly gain partners' trust. These are overwhelming displays of affection that quickly and abruptly fade after control is established in the relationship. Pro tip: NRE, or new relationship energy, with a new partner is common, even in open relationship dynamics. But a sudden or dramatic shift in behavior isn't healthy. Gaslighting and negotiations. Narcissists often deny previous agreements or reinterpret boundaries to suit their agenda. This can include saying that they have no boundaries at all, or using very general and non-specific language to make it easier to position things to their advantage. Pro tip: boundary changes can be mutually negotiated at any point in a relationship, but specificity is key in effective communication, especially when first starting out. Using polyamory as a shield, excusing harmful behaviors as part of poly culture in order to avoid accountability. This can look like accusing partners of being jealous and then claiming that it's not poly. The book Polysecure by Jessica Fern, which you can check out in my reading list linked below, discusses how polyamory can sometimes be weaponized by those unwilling to address their attachment wounds. Pro tip: Poly people can experience jealousy too, and it's perfectly okay and perfectly normal. Favoritism and triangulation. A 2016 study in the Personality and Social Psychology Review found that triangulation is a common tactic used by narcissists to manipulate dynamics to their own agenda and remain in control in relationships. Dr. Ramani says every relationship with a narcissist is a threesome. And while polyamory is totally down with threesomes, pitting partners against each other or creating competition with others isn't the vibe. Pro tip. Even if you're in a parallel poly dynamic, meaning that your partners don't interact with each other and you have no relationship with their partners, there should always be a mutual respect for boundaries and the value of other partners and relationships. These are all pretty painful patterns to experience. And if any of them sound a bit too familiar and you think you might be in a relationship with a narcissist, keep watching because we're going to explore the 4 most important things to do to protect yourself. But don't make that diagnosis just yet, because sometimes simple inexperience can look a lot like narcissism when it comes to open relationship dynamics. So how can you tell the difference between someone with NPD or who's displaying narcissistic qualities and someone who's just inexperienced or insecure in new poly dynamics? A 2019 article in Frontiers in Psychology found that empathy levels are a key differentiator between narcissistic and insecure but well-meaning partners. The key here is intent. Insecurity often stems from fear, while narcissism is about control. Esther Perel's work in her book Mating in Captivity, also linked in my reading list below, highlights the distinction between growing pains in relationships and destructive dynamics caused by narcissistic patterns. For example, an inexperienced poly partner might need reassurance about shared time but be open to compromise. A narcissist will demand that things always go their way. Here are some key questions to ask yourself. Is their behavior about learning and growing, or is it about maintaining power? Do they show genuine remorse and seek ways to repair when they make mistakes? Or do they deflect and blame? Are they open to constructive feedback and willing to grow and change? Or do they get defensive? Is their behavior consistently self-serving, or is there an attempt to meet others' needs? If you think you might be in an open or poly relationship dynamic with a narcissist, here are 4 things you can do to protect yourself. Set firm boundaries. Communicate clearly and establish consequences for violations and enforce them. No exceptions. For example, you could say, if you cancel plans without notice again, I'll need to take a step back from this relationship. Notice how you're not telling them what to do, which would be controlling, but you're letting them know your needs and what you're going to do to take care of yourself if those needs and boundaries are not honored. Seek the right support from friends who understand or are experienced with multi-partner relationship dynamics, a poly-friendly therapist, or non-monogamy support groups. Check out the resources through the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom linked below, which supports ethically non-monogamous communities. Evaluate the relationship. Consider if the dynamic is salvageable or if exiting is the healthiest choice. Not every relationship can or should be saved. Sometimes the healthiest option is to leave. Every time we accept someone else violating our boundaries, we violate ourselves along with them. Taking a stand for yourself and walking away from a dynamic with this damaging pattern can feel very scary at first, but often it leads to more internal and external peace. Staying together is not the only measure of relationship success. Ending a relationship after repeated boundary violations is an act of self-care and self-preservation. Speaking of self-care, prioritizing our emotional and mental health isn't selfish. It's basic survival. Behaviors that make us feel good, like therapy, journaling, enjoying hobbies, or spending time with supportive people, can give us the strength and perspective we need to address challenges. Polyamory thrives on mutual respect and empathy, but narcissism undermines that foundation. By staying alert to these red flags, prioritizing your peace, and leaning on the right support systems, you can protect yourself and create healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Have you encountered NPD or narcissistic behaviors in your polyamorous relationships? Share your story in the comments. I'd really love to hear how you navigated it. And who knows, sharing your story might just save someone else from the same fate. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this.